I have it on excellent authority. You're the one who's been making the phone calls.
I have never called the Indiana Board of Nursing.
I got a big smile on my face, and you know why? Because it's going to get done.
What's going to get done?
You will understand when the time comes. I'll be in Bermuda having a big Cuba Libre with a 22-year-old when it happens.
That's
you
nice.
Keep that in mind. Tanya, you enjoy your time left on this earth, okay? Because that's what it's going to come down to.
Everybody knows it'll be you, and you're not going to make it to Bermuda.
Oh, I'll be in Bermuda, Tanya.
Oh, you'll be in Bermuda, so
Yeah.
Where will the kids be?
Probably with your parents.
Okay.
Wondering, gosh, what happened to Mom?
Well, I wanted to switch things up a little bit because this is a very familiar case.
Interesting case in
Yeah.
a lot of ways.
Yeah. And this was actually suggested to me when I did a Facebook post months ago saying me and you guys, a mother-daughters podcast, and that we're going to, do certain crime shows or certain stories, and Dirty John was suggested to me. So I first got the podcast, I think, and I listened to it, and then I think one of you mentioned the Netflix series. Or did I watch the Netflix and
You
then
told me about it,
told you guys about it? So, I think this story, probably other than our very first episode with Elsie Underwood, fits in perfectly with our purpose of breaking down crime and seeing why women stay.
This is a lot of whys in this case. A lot of whys.
Yeah. And, next season I want to do like a man who stays with someone that's dangerous, but this season it's mostly women. But not only stay, but actually go back after knowing, and so everybody's pretty familiar with Deborah and, John Meehan and all of that. But to me, this is a perfect story of red flags, personalities, and all of those things that make people susceptible to predators. And it also, shows it doesn't matter your intelligence. It doesn't matter your background, your financial, station in life. It's not an intelligence issue. I think that's where people, they don't understand. It's a heart issue. It's an emotion issue. And I don't think people that have been victims or have been preyed upon should feel, I know you feel dumb and you feel, like, why didn't I see that, or why did I stay, and all those things. I think we just need to understand that there are some people out there that are master manipulators, and they know exactly what to say and hook you. And so this is a very good story. Now, of course, again, we're not, psychiatrists or psychologists or law enforcement. I could say we are armchair, psychologists. But with me being a business consultant, you in HR, and you work, obviously for the Texas Lottery. So whatever we discuss is just going to be amateur opinion. But it is a fascinating story. Now, the infamous Dirty John story is a perfect example of everything we've talked about so far in this season. But people, women especially, I think, because we're nurturers, because we're, designed to care for people and things like that. We can
fix things.
And fix things. Oh, that's a good one. Yes, we are. We want to fix situations like our kids, boo-boos and, I don't know about vehicles. I mean,
you could, but most women.
But, like some people get together with people and think that they can change them.
Yes, that's huge, especially with women.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a really good point.
And I think they look for the best of people, and they want the best for people usually.
Yeah. Yeah. So we can be too forgiving, too kind, and we can also dismiss or overlook red flags. And 65%, of the population are S personalities, which we've talked about. The sweethearts of the world, the nurturers, the accepting people, humble, tactful, relationship focused, everything that I'm not.
That's a high percentage.
It is.
65. I'm
It's
surprised.
65%. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. C's are the next, and then DIs make up 12%
Which
combined.
you might want to explain.
Well, the D is aggressive, bold, can be insensitive and rude,
Jerk.
whatever. The C's are straightforward, hard to read, and can also be jerks. And then
That's me, by the way.
and then the I's are like the fun-loving, life of the party,
Me for sure.
people focused, and then the S's are again humble, tactful, and accepting. And that epitomizes Deborah. And for people like her, again, smart professional woman, it's hard to say no. It's hard to cut off those relationships that are toxic and dangerous.
But everything she did seemed completely different from her personality.
Yeah.
Because she's strong,
Well, and you can
businesswoman.
be different in business versus personal.
And she
I
loved
am,
her
for
kids.
sure.
Yeah.
They came first.
Like at home,
Yeah.
I can tend to be more relaxed than in business. I remember one guy, we did an assessment on him, and at home he's an S, but at business he's a CD. So it can be your environment as well.
Right.
Very much.
Very classy lady. S's hate conflict. They want everybody to get along, or along. And so again, she's the epitome of this. And, I want to discuss some of the why behind her decisions, but I don't want to put words in her mouth. So I'm going to try to be really careful with that. But knowing personalities like the back of my hand, I think we'll be able to be pretty safe in it. And again, like we talked about the last episode, filter kindness and goodness through street smarts. So I want to start with Deborah. I want to get into her. And I didn't bring up the right picture here. So let me, it's this one. Let's see. Where is it? Oh, right here. So this is a more recent picture of her. And, she's a very successful businesswoman, built an interior design business for over 30 years, absolutely loved what she does and did. She designed model homes and clubhouses. And what I really liked about her, and this is the epitome of an S, is she liked to hire single women and mothers. Because she knew what it felt like, to be a young mother and struggle.
And she wanted to help.
Yeah. And when she was pregnant and she had one child already, that's when her first marriage broke up. And the thing with S's is they are people focused. They need people in their life. They need connection. It's not like a D or a C personality that's task focused. Yes, we need certain people in our life, but we're also very independent and self-sufficient too. And so we can adapt, I think, a little bit easier than some personalities.
Her occupation fit her then.
Oh, it absolutely did.
And pleasing. I mean, interior design.
Yeah.
That's like huge when you help someone get their home the way they want it.
Yeah. Now, at the point that John Meehan entered her life, she was 59. She had been married and divorced
Beautiful too.
4 times.
Wow.
And her kids said, "Oh, sorry, is it
No.
no, offend you? Do we want to discuss your okay?"
What did I miss? I don't know.
But she'd been married and divorced 4 times.
Hold on. Let me count. Okay.
Just can't go in there.
But she was married and divorced 4 times. You're still married to your 4, so you're good. You got 1 more to go.
That makes it better. This cannot go in there.
Well, it might be too late. So, all her kids are grown, and she's at the epitome of success.
2 kids.
Yeah.
2 kids.
No, I think she had 3, actually.
2.
I thought
I thought it was 2
girls.
and a boy.
Oh, they didn't mention the boy in the show.
I think she might have a son, but I think it's in my notes.
No,
Okay.
her nephew was
No,
the
she had
kid in the
4
show.
kids. She had 4 kids, and they were all grown. So I think she had 3 daughters and 1 son.
Okay.
Just
But
2 or more into her life, probably.
Okay.
so she was able to have the perks that come with success. She was a wealthy and is a wealthy woman, but she was missing love. I mean, she wanted someone to love her, and her kids, said she always picked the bad ones. She was always drawn to the bad.
Lonely, maybe,
That's
too?
interesting.
It is interesting. Now, I know when I was a teenager, I was bad to or drawn to the bad, like what was that? Jimmy Dean, not Jimmy Dean, that's the sausage guy. James Dean.
Yeah, Jimmy Dean.
Well, the look, not the personality. I was attracted
the
to the
look.
look.
That's how your dad
Yes.
was. Because everyone thought he was such a bad guy. So I thought, okay.
Conquest.
Yes,
Yeah.
I will take him.
Wait, hold on. Is that a S personality thing?
Oh, well, she's an ID.
Oh, sorry. ID, yes. Is
Yeah.
that I?
I can see the challenge. D's especially.
It was a
would like
challenge.
challenge.
'Cause
Plus,
yeah.
he's your opposite. He was a C. My dad, he's not was. My dad's still alive. He's a C personality, and that's a polar opposite.
He's
from
a
an I.
leader.
So.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Wow.
Goodness.
Okay, now.
And so from watching this series and the podcast, which was great, hosted by Christopher Goffard, it was like the last piece to her fairy tale. If she could find love, that was the last piece. She'd have the life that she wanted. Now, she was raised by a deeply religious mother, Arlene. And you guys know me, I don't like the word religious. To me, it's like stuffy and rules and, sourpuss, Christians. But from this series, it appeared that Arlene was sincere, had a deep, deep faith and commitment to God. Like, it was a relationship for her. It wasn't just religion. And her convictions guided her life. And, I don't want to get ahead of myself, but, there was a twist in the story involving Deborah's sister that we'll get into that I think did play a role to a degree in how Deborah responded. But we do know that Deborah's sister, her older sister, did die. And we'll get into that later. Now, Arlene's faith has influenced both Deborah and then Tara, her youngest daughter. I'm not sure about Jacqueline. She was actually my favorite. She's a firecracker, so I really liked her. But anyway, so Deborah was on an over 50 dating site. And she wasn't too impressed with the first 3 dates. They were either less handsome than the profile pictures or she was bored with the conversation, which makes sense. She's a businesswoman. She's accomplished. She needs to meet someone that's on her level as far as intellect and, stimulation, things like that. So, in October 2014, she found John Meehan's profile, and it said he was a Christian, divorced, and a physician. So he seemed perfect guy. He's also divorced. He'll understand that. He's a Christian and he's a physician, so he must be safe. Mm-hmm. So their first date was at a restaurant in Irvine. And I'm going to pull up the website here real quick and show you. And it is called Houston's in Irvine, California. So I looked it up. Yeah, and it's not super pricey, but it's definitely not, pricey. And if you look on their website at hillstone.com, you see dining guidelines and dress code, okay?
Wow.
So it says, guest attire can elevate or diminish the experience of others. We consider hats, tank tops, flip-flops, and team athletic attire too casual for our restaurants.
Our restaurant.
Yeah. And so there's like even, a guideline if you're going to eat there, et cetera, et cetera.
Wow.
And so, it's a nice place. It's not somewhere you want to go looking like this. Okay, so this is actually not them at the restaurant, but yes, he's wearing scrubs. And he was notorious for wearing scrubs, and we'll get into that picture in a little bit. But she looked amazing, okay, when they got together. She has thick, wavy blonde hair. She wore designer jeans. And then a black Gucci high heels and Chanel bag. So she probably looked spectacular. Classy woman, has style, obviously. Well, he was a different story. So he's 55, 6 foot, 2 inches tall, not bad looking at all. Hard jawed, good looks, and gem sculpted frame, quote, and dark wavy hair. But he wore shorts and an ill-matching preppy shirt. Christopher, the podcast host, said he looked a little weathered and he dressed lazily. But he was really into himself. Is that grammatically correct? Right here is a picture of him holding, his phone in front of him, doing a screenshot in the mirror, admiring his abs. So he was definitely focused on his looks, and he would do that quite often, I guess.
Do y'all see the knives at the very top?
No, not until you mentioned it. That's weird. So he has
Those are knives, right?
knives, like steak knives, in a holder on top of a bookcase in the living room.
Right? I think so, maybe.
A little weird.
By looking at them, they're a cute couple together.
They are. And see how friendly his smile is in his
I was about to
face?
say that. He does have a nice smile.
Yeah.
It's like
Disarming.
inviting. Yes, disarming.
Like most psychopaths, no joke.
Right.
I mean, I'm serious when I say if I meet someone and immediately like them, I am wondering if they are on that psychopath level, because that is one of the traits, is they are master manipulators that set people at ease, and you just instantly like them. And so he does. He looks very disarming in that picture. And so it's funny because I have here in my notes that in spite of his appearance, he had a friendly smile that put people at ease. Yeah. So, and I teach this in my online course because I tell people when I train business staffs that the smile is the first thing a brain looks for, and then it looks for hands. So the brain's only job is to keep you alive. And when, if you think back to the last time you saw someone you knew, or hadn't seen in a while, your face instantly, the smile, your cheeks lift, you get the little crinkles around your eyes, and then you'll even tilt your head a little bit. And it's a natural, instinctive thing. Even the eyebrows go up a little. And when you tilt your head, you're showing that other person your carotid artery, which is the most vulnerable part of your body. So what it does is it tells their brain you're safe. So the smile is that powerful. And I'm sure we've all had to either give a fake smile or we've gotten a fake smile. I mean, my reaction to a fake smile is, wow.
Mine is I can't do fake smiles.
Well, if I get one, I immediately don't trust them and kind of want to throat punch them. What about you guys?
I can't even remember if I've been given a fake smile. I guess I didn't pay attention.
Maybe I haven't not paid attention. I don't know.
Well, obviously, knowing a lot of body language in my business, I can spot a fake one right off the bat. But, the emotions are created by your facial expressions and also passed on by another person's facial expressions. So a fake smile is not easy to fake. I mean, people can tell, the brain can tell. So you look at this picture here and he's got that genuine look like he's a good guy. So because of that, she didn't have any faux signal. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There was no faux signal that she could have had. Now, the other thing that's interesting is John was able to make Deborah feel like she was the only person in the restaurant, the most valuable person to him in that moment. And he was very interested in her, her business, her personal life. He wanted to talk about her, not just himself. A lot of people don't realize that most people want to talk about themselves.
That's true.
Yeah. And so when you have someone that's interested in you, yeah, you immediately notice, like, wow, this is interesting. And so now me, I would probably be more like, I'm not comfortable talking about myself. I'll never forget this lady. She had no clue. She was like a people person, one of those S's. I barely knew her. And she starts asking me questions about my husband, how long I've been married, and how many kids I have. And I'm like, I'm just not really comfortable sharing that with you. I literally met you 2 hours ago. I mean, and she was like, I could tell I hurt her feelings. And so later I apologized. I said, I'm so sorry. And she goes, no, I do that. I just want to dive in and learn about people, and I don't give them an opportunity. And I said, no, it's my fault. I shouldn't have done that. And this was years ago. Now I understand why people do that. At the time, I'm like, why are you being all nosy?
They want to be friendly.
Right. And they want to know about you. S's want to know about you personally. And you're dealing with a D. And I'm like, I don't want you to know about me personally. So I felt bad for a little bit.
At least you apologized.
I did. but she's still nosy. So anyway, and then on top of that, he was a natural storyteller. And just some science on that. When you tell a story, your brains literally start thinking on the same wavelength. They've done fMRIs. It's one of the biggest rapport builders. So hopefully no one uses this information to manipulate people. But telling stories literally gets your brains working as one. Is that crazy?
But you have to remember the stories you tell.
Right. So then he did tell her about his work as an anesthesiologist with Doctors Without Borders. Now, later, she discovered that was all a lie. But at the time, he adapted to her and what he knew about her. So, he being the true psychopath that he was wanting to know about her so he could find those inroads into her emotions.
Setting the groundwork.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, it's amazing how premeditated it was. We'll find that out later. So he did. He adapted to her. And again, psychopaths are master manipulators. Now, obviously, I can't give a professional opinion that he was a psychopath. But again, they're well liked right off the bat. So it's funny. They can pick up wounding. Like sharks smell blood. They can pick up wounding. They can pick up those little things that they like, how they hold themselves. They'll mirror the body language. And when I was in Leadership Clovis, a chamber event or a chamber program, I got picked as a president, even though I was trying to have a low profile. And so they picked me as the president. And they're like, "Who do you want as a VP?" And I won't say the guy's name, but he was in the military, and I'm like, I want him. Because he's like, to me, like Joe Biden. I'm not a Democrat, but everybody loved him, and he was friendly and all that. And I'm like, he'd be perfect. I'm the jerk. He's the nice guy. Let's do this, And, but one day we were on the bus going to one of the places, and I started talking about psychopathic tendencies and what those look like to a couple ladies. And they said, well, is there a way to test that? And I said, yeah. And I didn't tell them what my score was. It's pretty high. But so he was like kind of listening to the conversation. And so he came up to us. He goes, "Do you think I'm a psychopath?"
That's weird.
That's an interesting question to ask someone.
And I said, yeah. He's like, really? And I said, yeah, but there's a functioning psychopath and then non-functioning like Ted Bundy. And he's like, well, can I take that test? I said, absolutely. I'll send it to you. He's like, okay. And he scored 4 point something out of 5. Well, so when he came up there and, I told him I'd send it. Well, we started chit-chatting. And it was during the time when not this year, but I think 2 years ago when the fires were burning up California. Mm-hmm. And his sister lived there. And his sister barely made it out of the apartment building with her son during those fires. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's terrible. Now, just so you know, psychopaths don't typically have empathy. So when someone that's a psychopath that have a high score say, oh, that's terrible, they don't feel anything. They're acknowledging it must be terrible.
Yeah, they don't feel it.
But it can be very helpful in mentoring and pastoral care like I do, to not feel the emotion because I can have a clear head. But so, when he was talking, I said, oh, that's terrible. And he goes, well, she's, a leech on the earth. So, okay. Wow. So that really let me know he was a psychopath, and I was not surprised at all by his score.
Wow.
But everybody loved him. Seriously.
They say a lot of doctors are psychopaths.
They are.
Lawyers, even salespeople.
The top
are... How can you engage with people when you have no empathy? Because you have to have that relationship desire.
Well, not necessarily, because rapport is scientific. People don't know that. Mirroring body language, showing interest in people, finding the things that are common ground are all scientific.
That's a lot of work.
But they're good at it, and they consider it a challenge. And so, now this would have been a cue to me. He told her on the first date that he would be the best thing that ever happened to her.
Red flag.
Interesting. Oh. So, but why is that a red flag? Because that's confidence.
No, that's
Not to me.
arrogance and would have
That's
instantly
arrogance,
turned me
yeah.
off. Be like, oh, really? You think you're the best thing that's ever happened to me? That's a little arrogant right there.
It is.
So you would have interpreted that as confidence.
Uh-huh.
Interesting.
I think
I
so.
would have thought, what a
Arrogance.
douchebag is what I would have thought.
It actually would have been. It would have depended on the tone and how he was looking at me.
That's true.
Confidence to me is something like, you're going to wear stripes with polka dots. That's confidence.
No, that's
That-
weird.
That's confidence.
And that's
I just remembered I actually told Dusty. We hadn't even gone on our first date yet. We talked on the phone. I said, I'm the coolest girl you'll ever meet. Apparently it worked.
Don't tell people that.
I know, right?
Now it's gonna be for
it was confidence.
thousands of people to hear. Now, how he said it is interesting you say that because he said it very ingratiating with a laugh and a twinkle.
Yeah.
When he was looking at her.
I'm
So
like,
there was
yeah.
probably the chemistry, and he did it in a way that I still would have been like,
It might have made her laugh. Who knows?
probably. Plus, she's an S. I'm not trusting as a D. So I'd be like, wow.
And she was looking for that fairy tale ending.
Right. And I'd be
Right.
like, there's no such thing. So he also told her that he owned 2 houses, one in Newport and one in Palm Springs. He said they had a couple of kids and that he just happened to go or to worship at her church, the Mariners. That was the name of the church. Very
What a big
convenient.
church.
Mm-hmm. And that would have been a flag to me as well. Like, this is too good to be true. Like, you happen to go to my church a couple times. You have kids. You have 2. I don't know. It just would have been weird. But yes, it was a very large church. It's considered a mega church. And I read up about them on their website, and it seems like a great church. So, and then here again is like, people like him know exactly what to say. So I don't know if he picked up on it or if his gut told him or if maybe she told him during the course of the conversation. But her last serious boyfriend had said that she wasn't his type. So it was a serious boyfriend. And then after being in this serious relationship, he ends it with, you're just not my type. So that hurt her deeply.
Yeah.
And so I'm sure he could tell she was wounded. She was the perfect target.
Wonder if he did research on her too.
I'm wondering
Because
too.
she's sort of a public figure.
That's a good thought because, like, when I'm working with people, like, for example, I've been helping a lady hire people in her business. I go to people's Facebook.
Yeah, we do that.
A lot of
Yeah.
people do that.
Yeah, I can tell what their personality is. I can, and so people need to know your Facebook is looked at. In fact, one lady was overlooked for even an interview because she put, I may always be late, but at least I'll be there. And I'm like, yeah, you're not going to get hired.
Yeah. And being
A lot
in
of-
HR,
Yeah.
we look when we're investigating. We look before we hire. It's
Yep.
a telltale
A lot
sign
of
a
companies
person.
do it now.
Yeah. So know that on your Facebook.
Right.
But he told her that she stopped his heart. She was so beautiful and she was just his type.
The first date.
Wow. Yes. While he
that
was
would've been a red
caressing
flag to
her.
me.
2
her
red
back.
flags so far.
I think 4. Now, she did admit it was a little fast for her, but she was eating up his attention.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's no telling what she's thinking. Like, why can't I make it work? What's wrong with me? What am I doing wrong? Like, I'm sure, she wondered if maybe there was something wrong with her, why she couldn't stay married, why she kept, running men off. I mean, maybe that's what it was, but.
And her personality probably was like, oh, he's probably just nervous. First date.
Yeah.
Give him the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah. Yeah.
She did excuse him a lot.
She was definitely going to excuse him. And again, I think a lot of it was, her personality, and probably a lot of it was her background with her mother. Yeah. So you'd think great first date, end it with a good night kiss at the door, promise to call soon. Well, she brought him back to her penthouse just up the block from the restaurant where they did kiss. Then, I guess he was inside. He plops on her bed and said, "This feels incredible."
That
A red
definitely,
flag.
very much so.
Again, I'd be like, you're not coming into my house. I don't know you. You could be a killer. And then to go straight for her bed and do that. So he's not hiding that he wants to sleep with her.
It make me uncomfortable right
It made
away.
me very uncomfortable. Like, are you going to rape me? Uncomfortable. I don't know how y'all would be.
Me too.
No, because he was on his back. That's a vulnerable position. This feels great. That's just an awkward,
It's a little awkward.
shopping immaturely. Oh, this feels great. Okay, I need you to get on my bed now.
Right. And she did. She was very uncomfortable.
Good for her.
She asked him to leave, but he wouldn't. And
Oh
so
my gosh.
she wasn't mean about it. She was very polite about it, but she did let him know firmly that she was ready for him to leave and for the date to end. So he got really mad. And it ended with a fight. And so she was like, that's the last time I'm going to hear from him, and I'm not going to call him. And she just marked him off like the last three.
Part of Deborah Newell's story was the people that she enlisted to help her leave John Meehan, because she understood that the most dangerous time for someone that's in an abusive relationship is when they leave them. That's when 80 to 90% of the murders occur, or the attacks. And so at helpguide.org, they have a great article called How to Get Out of an Abusive Relationship. And they also have one for men, Help for Men Who Are Being Abused, which to me, if you're a man that's being abused, I think it might be even harder, because you have to admit that someone is exercising abuse over you. But this article goes into signs that your abuser is not changing. For example, he minimizes the abuse or denies how serious it really was. He continues to blame others for his behavior. He claims that you're the one who is abusive. He tells you that you owe him another chance. You have to push him to stay in treatment. He says that he cannot change unless you stay with him and support him. He tries to get sympathy from you, your children, or your family and friends, and he expects something from you in exchange for getting help, and he pressures you to make decisions about the relationship. So they have safety planning for abused women in this article, protecting your privacy, numbers and things, including domestic violence shelters, etc., and even how to protect yourself after you've left. So it's a really good article. And again, they have one to help men who are being abused. And if you hear a meow, that is Joseph in this short clip. So helpguide.org, go there and get the resources that you need if you're in one of those relationships.
Dates. Now, I like how Christopher phrased her perspective as a designer. So let me read this to you. When people walked into one of her exquisitely arranged rooms, they were invited to imagine their futures in them. She called them approachable dreams. They were like glossy ads in upscale lifestyle magazines, purged of kids' toys and dirty dishes and other real-world complications. Her perfect rooms were like the face you presented on dates, inviting people to fantasize about the piece that may complete their lives. If your eagerness or loneliness or desperation showed too soon, you were done, and maybe that was John's mistake. Mm-hmm. But I also think it shows what she was looking for. She was able to make dreams come true. She was able to perfectly place those books and that artwork, but she couldn't seem to complete her life, you know? And she didn't trust her gut, though, unfortunately. He called the next day, apologized, and said that he acted that way because he wanted to spend every minute he could with her. Mm-mm. And I'm thinking if he would have known his end, he might have picked a different target.
If what?
Yeah.
He would have known his end, he might have picked a different target. Okay. Once John knew he had her hooked because she forgave him and agreed to another date, he began telling her he loved her. Right off the bat.
Red flag.
I know! It's amazing. I mean, it just makes you wonder how much she wanted someone to love her. Because again, the personality thing. And then he told her it was either on the second or the third date that he wanted to marry her.
And there's another one.
Now, okay, so to me they would be red flags too, but I remember when me and Mike started dating, we knew we would marry.
I did on our first date, but I knew him for a year.
I knew of Mike and had seen him a few times, but I didn't know him very well. But we knew we would marry. And we talked about it on like the second or third date.
Yeah.
So, you know, I don't know on that, but I do know, saying I love you was not, I mean, we even discussed marriage, but we did not say I love you. And even to this day, it's like for some people, they love it every day or several times a day. For us, those words are so special, that when we say them, it means a lot, so we had that core agreement when we got married that we wouldn't use them every day. We wanted them to be special. For others, that's what they like to hear.
And
We say it all day long.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, actions are more important to me. Yeah.
More important.
Yeah, and that's what me and Mike had said, that people can say I love you all the time and they don't. And so to us, it was actions.
It's just a word.
Sometimes. Yeah.
I speak the truth. If I don't mean it, I don't say it.
Right.
But most people.
Yeah.
Like in the end of a call, love you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That
I say it. I mean it.
And it's funny, like every once in a while I will tell Mike, I like you.
Yes. I say you're
and
my favorite
that
person.
to me means more. Because you can love someone and not like them.
Right. So what was her reaction with the marriage? I love you.
That I love you definitely would have freaked me out.
She didn't say, I mean, again, she felt it was moving too fast, but I think she was eating it up. I think he was filling that tank in her that needed to be filled, that love tank. Yeah. And so she dismissed how he was always wearing faded and frayed blue medical scrubs. And this is the picture here. Yeah. So she was at a formal cancer event, and you can tell, she's dressed to the nines, looks very, very nice. He showed up in scrubs, and he had the ability to make her feel incredibly special and wanted, things that she was starving for. And she texted him after one of their dates and said, "So you are the real thing?" And he said, "Best thing that will ever happen to you."
Interesting, he's behind her. Mm-hmm. Sort of hidden.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He really is, quite a bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so after this, things began moving really quick. So let me give you a quick timeline. October 2014, that was their first date, okay, that ended with a fight. November 2014, not even a month later, John and Deborah move in together in a beautiful house on Balboa Island in Newport Beach, which I like, Balboa, Rocky, Balboa.
Adrian!
Anyway.
I know exactly where it is.
It was in Deborah's name. She paid $6,500 a month and 12 months in advance.
When was this?
November 2014.
Okay.
It was a nice place.
Yeah.
And he didn't want his name on the lease because of tax problems. Another red flag. Yeah. I think we're up to maybe 10.
Right.
Then
within a month.
December 2014, they get married in Las Vegas. So here is, and this is just a picture of her to, see how pretty she looks that she sent him through a text message.
She's beautiful.
But right here is where they got married, in one of those chapels. She was there on business, and they went to the courthouse with no guests, and then they drank lemon drop martinis after to celebrate, and no prenup.
And they didn't tell anybody.
Mm-mm. No. So,
so to me that says you're sort of ashamed. If you wouldn't tell somebody your own kids.
And what I don't like about it is, so she's successful, but I don't think she valued herself. Mm-hmm. Because to me, it's like, wow, why would you want to marry him with no guests at a courthouse in Las Vegas? Like, it just feels like it was a business transaction. And I would have been like, if you want to marry me, you're going to make it special. Why do you want to just get married in a courthouse like it's no big deal? Now, there's one thing where you get married in a courthouse because maybe your husband's getting deployed or you want to go ahead and have that out of the way, and then a nice ceremony and a nice, reception. But that wasn't what this was. He pressured her the entire trip to get married. So they go on their first date in October, and in December they're married.
And she's a people pleaser. Mm-hmm. I mean, not that's a bad thing, but that's also part of her profession.
It is. It is.
She's just making him happy.
And that's a good point, because S's are people pleasers. They don't want anybody upset. Like the other day, Gigi, my father-in-law, his heart was racing again. And I said, I really wish you would call the doctor Monday, because he's waiting for them to call him back he had to wear a monitor and all that. I'm like, I really think you need to call him sooner and get in. And he said, well, I'll call him Monday. And I'm like, okay. Well, then later that night, we had our church over as usual on Fridays. And I said, but he said he's going to call Monday and get checked out because we're going to pray for him. And he goes, well, I just told you that.
What? So
You of all people.
So you'd be quiet about it?
Yeah. And
People
so
do that though.
his friend Dorena said, and you think that's going to satisfy a D? Like you're going to pacify a D personality? I'm like, so you lied. Well, no.
To them, it's not.
Oh, no,
lie,
you
though.
lied.
Right.
You
No
lied.
intention
That was a
of it.
lie. And I'm like, fine, I don't care. That's basically how I was. And then I found out Dorena said, so you are going to call Monday, right, though? And he's like, yeah. And then he didn't. And I said, Dorena, he lied to you, too. But there's no malice. It's not malice. It's the conflict. To avoid the conflict, they will just say yes or whatever you want to do.
Yeah, because
whatever you
if they
wanna hear.
say no, then everyone's going to be blah, 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 blah,
Yeah.
blah.
Yeah.
I wonder if he was invited on that trip or did he manipulate
It
him?
almost
I know.
sounds like he manipulated and pressured her.
Right.
Yeah.
From what I heard. So, yeah, it just feels like she didn't think she was valuable enough to have something more special.
Look, she's all the way straight. He has to lean into her.
I know. It's very interesting. And even the way they are right here,
Yeah.
it looks like the pictures look very awkward.
That doesn't look like a newlywed.
No.
They're separated.
Mm-hmm.
No arm around each other, no
Right.
hugging, no.
He looks happy.
Well, of course. Yeah.
She looks not too
Tense,
sure.
maybe.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe not.
But she absolutely adored him, so there's no getting around that. But yeah, they don't look like they were. But for her, she said she felt like it was an opportunity to love again. So now,
Opportunity to love again.
yeah,
So maybe grow into the love. A lot of women do that.
right. They notice things, but they're like, I'm just being picky or whatever
Right.
it is. So you might want to know about her family. What did her kids think? So Jacqueline is Deborah's oldest, and she lived with her at the time.
How old is she?
I don't know. Now she's probably in her 30s. At the time, I think she's mid-20s maybe. But she met John the first night he showed up at the house, which I thought was weird. There's no way I would have someone that I met on an online dating site know my address. But anyway, he showed up at the house and she made it clear to him and Deborah that she thought he was a loser and maybe even homeless, and then she left.
Oh my.
So I love Jack. She's a D to the core.
She said that
Wow.
in front of him?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So open the door.
Yep.
I wonder what his reaction was.
He was not happy.
I
And
imagine.
Jacqueline's very savvy, and she said that she watched him as his eyes took in their velvet chairs, jewelry, and fine art. And then he happened to notice her safe, and he wanted to know what was in her safe, and that's where she kept her Birkin and Cartier bags. And she said that she told her mom that she wanted to get the creep out of there. So
Wow.
she could tell. She could tell right off the bat. And again, it's a D. It's a DS situation. A D's like, why are you taking in all of our nice, things? And so she didn't trust him. But Deborah expected that to be Jacqueline's response because her taste in men often exasperated her children. So even though there were clear signs, she dismissed it. So again, it's Jacqueline's a D. And so predators typically don't pick D's. I'm sure there are some that have, but a D will tell it like it is. And if they don't like you, if they're unrefined, and what I mean by that is, some Ds have learned to refine their aggressive, refine their opinions. Like I'm a D. If I'm around an S, I'm not going to tell it. Like I do warn people, don't ask me if I like your dress,
I'm like
or your
that.
hair, because I will tell you.
Me too.
I'll try to be nice, but I'm going to tell you the truth. But I'm not going to say, well, you look like a lime in that dress. I'm not going to do that. But I'm saying, well,
Because they ask, so you tell them.
Yeah. Well, an unrefined D can be so bold as to say, I think you look like an idiot in it. Like, that's just how they are. And so, right off the bat, and then I'm sure Deborah and Jacqueline probably clashed at times because Deborah's a polar opposite of Jacqueline. Polar opposite.
Maybe even that evening.
Mm-hmm. And predators, I think, are drawn to S's. So anyway, Christopher said that her friends jokingly said, where other people saw red flags, she saw a parade.
A parade?
Yeah, like parade's happy, you got flags in a parade, everything's great.
Oh.
Yeah. So, yeah.
I get it with the flags.
Yeah.
Right.
So Deborah kept the fact that they lived together and they were married from her kids because she knew that what they'd say, but her kids didn't see how he brought her coffee in the morning, got her groceries, took her Tesla and Range Rover in for maintenance, and even carried her purse, which I think is weird. That would be weird to me. Don't carry my purse. How he treated her blinded her to any danger and really caused her to make irrational decisions like marrying a stranger after only 2 months. She truly believed that the kids would love him once they got to know him. And especially Tara, the youngest, who was just as sweet and as kind as her. What Deborah didn't see is that John had effectively isolated her from her family. And that's what most predators do. He then told her that her family was just jealous and her kids were spoiled. And so we're almost to the end of this podcast. But after she started dating John, Jacqueline moved out early in the relationship. Now, Tara lived in Las Vegas and had no idea how fast things were moving. Like she just didn't know. Where Jacqueline was assertive, Tara was non-confrontational, but even Tara had concerns. Wow. Tara is, to me, sweeter than her mom. And she saw red flags. Like, if he's so great, why was he single? Good question.
Very practical.
Yeah. But then the same question could be asked about her mom. Is she so great? Why has she, been married so many times? Well, there's just, you don't know, so you could say both sides of that. But also Tara was very protective of her mom because she saw how some had pretended to be Christian and then they would scream at her, hit her, and get as much money out of her as they could. So when she and her boyfriend, Tara and her boyfriend, moved to Southern California to meet John, they weren't impressed. John was cold. He barely made eye contact. He cut her off when she'd ask questions. He was helping Deborah move into the new house, which of course we know they were moving in together, but they were keeping it under the wraps. He manhandled a queen-size mattress down the stairs by himself like he was trying to show off. And then here's something that really worried her, Tara. Her 3 dogs were anxious around John, and dogs never lie. Because she's an animal lover, a dog lover. And so she thought that was weird. And she worked at a dog groomer's at the time. But she dismissed it, thinking they were just picking up the negative emotions she was feeling.
It is strange that Deborah hid so much.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, not really, actually, because S's will. They will hide things because they don't want the conflict. The biggest fear of an S personality is lack of peace and harmony.
But I would think if someone's hiding stuff, they must be ashamed.
Well,
if I'm hiding things, I either don't want to hear or I'm embarrassed by the situation.
Well, and obviously the oldest daughter was very aggressive and rude, and she's probably even more so with her mother.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So I think it was the conflict. But then Tara was also wanting to know, well, what kind of doctor doesn't have a car? Why has no one ever been to his 2 houses? And then why did he have time to play video games all day if he was so busy? So Tara was like picking up stuff, and so she was quite discerning. And then because her and her boyfriend were staying there a few days, it made it very hard to hide the fact they were living together. So what happened was right before Thanksgiving, Tara found some of John's stuff in a closet, and something very unusual happened. Tara got very, very angry and yelled at her mom. And so John was instantly enraged, wanting to know why Tara was going through his things. Well, what she thought was weird is she found a nursing certificate. I thought you were a doctor. So it was just weird.
She was angry at him, not at the mother.
Well, she was
At her
mad.
mother.
She
Both
was
of
mad
them.
because it's like, why are y'all living together? Like, how far is this relationship? And so he even asked Tara if she realized that kids could be smacked for snooping through people's things. Now, I have to say, if a strange man talked to my son like that, done.
Yeah, very much
Right.
so.
You need to get your stuff and leave. And now them being grown, I think I'd still have that response. But again, I didn't go through the words he'd say to her and how well he was treating her. But I don't know. I think that might be a little tough. It would have at least caused a fight between me and him.
But he alienated her from her children, too.
Right.
Which, on her personality at the beginning of the story, her kids were everything.
Yeah. Yeah. It was kind of weird. So
that's interesting how he was able to do that, because if her kids were everything. Not if, but I mean, being that her kids were everything, he was very good.
He was very good. Very, very good. Yeah. Master manipulator. Now, Tara and her boyfriend left right then. And they didn't celebrate Thanksgiving with the family. And so, but something bothered Tara even more. Why did he have that nursing degree? So, John explained that he had a PhD in advanced training as an anesthesiologist, but that doesn't even make sense. There's no such thing. But Deborah didn't seem bothered by the fact that he had led her to believe that he was an MD for 2 months.
Okay, she's a very successful woman. She may have had previous relationships where it had made other men uncomfortable. Her success and money.
Good point.
So
she might have been wanting to protect him and not bring up like, okay, I thought you said you were a doctor. That's a really good point, because that's exactly how Ines would be. Yeah. Very good. So, then, obviously she's starting to get worried about the situation, like her kids don't want to be around her anymore. Like she's losing everybody. So she asked her mom, Arlene, what do you think about John? And Arlene said, I think he's a great guy.
Isn't that interesting?
Mm-hmm. Again, the Christian thing, being naive. And so when Jacqueline showed up, later after all this happened, John asked for a private word with her, and Jacqueline basically said in front of everyone, you're the devil, and refused to talk to him.
She knew.
I think probably for John, Jacqueline was a challenge.
Maybe to change her mind.
Yeah, to try to manipulate her too. But she wouldn't let him.
He didn't know his audience. Mm-mm. Like, they're not going to go privately talk to you. They don't care.
Yeah, they don't care. She already judged him from the start, knew what he was. Yeah. And so it gets worse. Deborah wanted a professional's opinion on the situation. And I can understand, here she has this charming, loving man that's doting on her and filling her love tank in excess, but then her kids don't like him at all. Even sweet Tara, which was kind of confusing.
But her mother does.
Her mother does. So I'm sure it was a confusing time, and it was really hard. So the therapist she found said that she needed firmer boundaries with her children and that they have no right to sabotage her happiness. Now, this makes me mad to a degree because I do a lot of mentoring. Now, I'm not a professional, but I do a lot of mentoring, and I never take one side. I want to know the other.
True.
And I want to ask questions. What bothers you? What are you seeing? So even if people come to me and say, my husband did this to me, I may be irritated that happened, but I'm still going to try to say and get inside the head of, okay, well, let's break that down. What could have triggered that? Not saying it was your fault, but it could be something as easy as how you said it, or maybe they're just being a jerk. So after hearing all of the facts, we can come to the conclusion, okay, he was a jerk. He shouldn't have done that. Or she was a jerk. She shouldn't have done that. So it's not excusing. It's not trying to make the other person feel like they sparked that behavior. But I want to know all sides. And it just upset me that this therapist reinforced. Now, the other side of it is, did Deborah tell her she was dating him, and 2 months later they're married?
It validated her saying, he's okay then. My therapist said that.
Pleaser.
Yeah. Yeah. So, anyway, so her kids did seem a little bit spoiled, but that's, and of course John agreed completely with the therapist. So John and Deborah enter into a routine. They watch the sailboats and yachts in Newport Harbor. They walk hand in hand. He continued charming her with his vulnerable and sweet demeanor. He'd take selfies of his abs and explain how good looking he was in front of the mirror, which we saw that picture. But Deborah was tired of her wardrobe. So when she told him, he said, well, dress me. I want to please you. And so she took him to Brooks Brothers, bought him all the new wardrobe, and she said it felt like having a doll.
Wow.
So I think to end this part one, it's that we have to know too that Deborah was getting just as much out of this.
Yeah, he was manipulating, but she was getting the doll.
Yeah. So even though he was a master manipulator, she was still, getting what she needed from it. And I think that's a caution people need to understand that, okay, if you get attached to someone extremely fast and strong, take a pause and breathe and say, okay, what exactly, why am I feeling so attached so fast? Because even though Deborah was a great person, I think she was so starved for affection and companionship that it was almost like selfish on her part too. So not to, disparage her in any way, but it's like you're willing to give up your children for this man. So that tells me that you're getting something so strong that you're willing to lose that. And that's selfish too. So you don't want to enforce your kids to run your life, but you also need to take into consideration something might be wrong.
If both of them come to you with the same opinion.
Yeah. And I remember when Dad and Shirley separated. So Dad went to Clovis, and I'm living with Shirley in Odessa until we moved to Childress. And she started dating a guy not long after my dad left. And you can imagine how I treated him. I don't even think I said 2 words to him. He'd come to the house and I'd just stare at him. Or I'd go to my room, or I just couldn't stand that someone was there other than Dad. So you had all of that. Plus, I really didn't like her much at the time. I couldn't understand why my dad left me with her. And so, there was a lot going on. But to me, he was a sleaze bag. And I had a bad feeling. And I remember thinking, don't be alone with him ever. And I didn't. I was very cautious, and I even told her I don't want to be alone with him. And she made sure that she was really good about that. She made sure I didn't get harmed. And later I found out he was exactly what I thought.
Wow.
So
you knew.
I was in a situation like that. I wasn't even a teenager yet. And there was someone made me very uncomfortable, and he shut me in a room and was like chasing me around. He, a few years later, got convicted of rape.
Oh my gosh.
wow.
I do?
So we're not going to have names, of course. We can discuss this after. Yeah. But I appreciate to this day that Shirley protected me.
Yeah.
I do.
I bet your dad had a lot to do with that.
Probably so. I mean, he did. He taught me stuff like that, and I bet he did. And she might have been scared of Dad, too.
I was going to say that. Because if anything happened to his girl, he would have killed her.
Do y'all remember back in the 80s? I think I was probably 13 at the time, so it would have been 86. And I remember watching TV, and there was like a news break-in. Like they broke into the show. And it was this guy that was being extradited from one part of the country back to Alabama. And they had on the TV where they were taking him off the plane. And this man had molested this other man's son. And so they get him to Alabama, and they're taking him off the airplane. And it was one of those airplanes where you had like the stairs that came down. And the dad just walks up and shoots him dead right there on TV. And I remember I was like, oh. And so me and Dad were watching. I'm like, Dad, oh my God, and because it was live. They were, filming this guy coming back because he had molested, and they didn't expect the dad to come out with a gun and just shoot him on TV. So it was like one of those deals. And Dad said, good for him.
Right. I said the same thing.
He said, Lillian, if anyone ever hurt you like that, I would shoot them dead and not care at all. And I said, but Dad, you'd be in prison and I wouldn't have you. And so that,
But then on the other hand, it wouldn't be a memory and experience you'd have the rest of your life.
Right. Well, and the guy got off.
Yeah.
A jury said not guilty because of temporary. Oh, he killed him. But the dad
got
off. Now today he probably wouldn't, because
Today
people care more about the criminals than they do the victims. But back then they let him go. Yeah. So you're right. She probably knew not to let anything happen to me. But anyway, so we'll end part 1 here, but just the red flags and talking with y'all, it's like screaming danger, and the fact that she married him without a prenup is incredible.
That's really interesting. No prenup. She's a very good businesswoman.
But trusting. She's a trusting soul.
Did she do that with her other marriages?
I don't know.
Typically there's patterns.
Yeah, I have no idea. So, all right. Now, I'm going to have to confess.
About?
Being a D, I don't like to lose. So I just want to preface this fun thing with that statement. You know, the last time I was here, we had a bet between Sprinkles and Nothing But Cakes, and which one Mike would like the best, remember?
Right.
And so, okay, Sprinkles, Dallas, I believe. If you're ever there, you got to get a Sprinkles, and it has the cupcake ATM. And I'll probably put a picture of me getting my cupcake on the Instagram page. To me, my favorite. Now, you got me one. We don't want to say who. I don't remember where, but I didn't like it as much. I think that trick.
Yeah, told me.
So, really just want to, put that in there. But anyway, so then after we get my Sprinkles, we then go to Nothing But Cakes, which are amazing. They are amazing. And
which I practically had to force her to do.
Whatever. So what was it, like a vanilla? Was it the vanilla one?
Vanilla raspberry.
And then white chocolate raspberry and the vanilla. And he loved the vanilla.
He tried them. Yep.
I lost.
Which you went around the kitchen all night with the little sour face.
Whatever,
like that.
Anyway.
Mike was scared at first to even say.
No, he was not scared. That man does not get scared at all. But he was maybe hesitant because he didn't want me to look like I lost. But I do have to say, I will admit now, I was a little fussy then. Nothing But Cakes is probably number one.
It's so good.
Not to you it isn't, but...
No, the gluten-free.
The gluten-free is pretty amazing. So if you need gluten-free, them Sprinkles is a lot of fun too. But I have to admit, I think they're probably the best. But I'm still going to get my Sprinkles.
Yes, I'm excited. I'm going to see if they have a flavor I might like.
Yeah. And I think with Sprinkles though, so like if you're gluten-free, they only have like a flavor that day. So you can't pick what flavor you want. But I've had the two. I had the red velvet, which I don't normally like red velvet. It was amazing. And then I think the lemon one was the last one.
Alana suggested today that they may have the fall flavors out.
Like a pumpkin. That would be awesome.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what they have. It's like so exciting. Don't know what's going to be available. Drive all the way to Dallas to this ATM.
Mm-hmm. And it's pink.
Yes.
It's a pink ATM, and I don't even like pink. But it's awesome.
It's fitting.
It is. So, I think we're done with this part 1. So,
be rude.
Be smart.
And don't be a victim.
Outline of a Murder is a Mr. Joseph production. What do you think, Joseph?